Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the TechWolf Podcast, where we explore the skills-based organization, what it is, what it isn't, practical use cases to get companies started. And in the light of practicality, I've invited Ben Wein to the podcast today. Ben is the Director Workforce Skills Enablement at Bristol Myers Squibb. Ben there is part of the initiative at the pharma organization to become skill-based. And I'm fortunate enough to speak with Ben face-to-face here today in the New York Times building with this great view, and more specifically in the Flanders House, who were so nice to host us here. So welcome, Ben. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me. Excited to talk about skills.
Yeah, same here. And as we do with previous episodes too, I'd love to start with a question from our previous guest. And this question was asked by Mark Ramos, who has been in multiple chief learning officer roles at global organizations, has come across the skills topic a lot. And he was very interested to hear from you. What cultural attributes are the ones that will help you drive your skills strategy the most?
It's a great question. I think two things come to mind: trust and transparency. Similar themes between your people organization and your employee population. You're doing a very different way of running a people organization, right? We're using data-driven approaches. AI is coming into the mix with things that are very intimate, their jobs, how they upskill themselves, how we run our business, but also within our people organization, right? So skills requires all of your HR teams to collaborate. It's a different way of working, and skills, to be effective, you're breaking down seams between the different people practices using data, and to build those processes and to make that real requires collaboration in ways that I think, at least within our organization, has required us to build new muscles and work closer together, be transparent about what we're doing, like within our organization, as well as, within business and with employees.
Okay.
So
trust and transparency.
Trust and transparency.
The attribute.
Yeah.
And how long has BMS been on this journey so far?
Been on this journey, so I wasn't there all the way from the beginning, but at least as early as 2021, 2020, we had some pretty visionary leaders within our HR organization who were familiar with the concepts and continued to push us to take it on.
Yep.
And then it was really in 2022, 2023 where we really decided to lean in. And so now we're, I guess, year 4, year 5 in total, but about year 3 of going kind of all in.
Cool.
All in. Yeah.
And I want to put a pin on that trust and transparency, and how you're enabling that, or how you're giving confidence to the workforce and employees on that. But maybe before we get there, let's zoom out about the skills movement, the skills transformation in general. I always like to ask my guests, what do you think a skill-based organization is? Because I feel there's multiple definitions out there, also the ways that companies perceive it. So what for you is the skills transformation? Why is it important, and why now?
Yeah, so I think just start with what are skills. To me and to us, I think it's data, right? It's when we talk about a skills-based organization, it's taking skills as data and building out your people processes, how you make decisions using that data. Do you think, I think we'll get into, jobs, tasks, roles. There might be a bit of a branding problem with skills because it's not just skills, right? It's all of those data elements, all of the context. But that to me is what a skills-based organization is. And the, why and why now, I think in the age of AI, it's no coincidence that I think these AI tools are becoming commonplace at the same time over the last few years that the skills-based organization has, become a thing, right? Where if you go back 10 years ago, the things that we're doing now with AI tools would be very difficult, much more time consuming. So I think that's why it's the timing of when this movement has started, it just starts making sense looking back in retrospect. And then I think each organization that's gone on this journey has had their own reasons for going on this journey. So at BMS, for example, we had HR visionaries at our organization and on our leadership team, including our chief people officer, Amanda, who knew about this movement very early on. But then in 2022, 2023, we had the timing of some very critical talent shortages within our organization that came to fruition at the same time, and it was the solutions were coming online as this critical problem was surfacing, and it led to us working very closely with the business, because the talent shortage was specific to the group where we piloted the skills-based approach, so our cell therapy organization. So cell therapy, for those of you who don't know, is basically the next frontier of medicine, where you essentially train blood cells on how to fight diseases. And it's grown so rapidly that the demand has completely outpaced the supply of talent. So we were in a situation where there was not enough manufacturing engineers with these skill sets that for every company that had cell therapy products, and these products, they're personalized. So if we didn't have capacity to produce individualized medicine, that is patients that we couldn't provide medicine to, and these are products that treat cancer, treat other diseases. So one of the key metrics that people talk about for the argument for becoming a skills-based organization, time to fill. So for us, time to fill, it wasn't just a business metric. Of course, there was the business case, the business justification. But when you're talking about, we have patients that we don't have the talent to produce the medicine. We know we have the medicine, we have it, it's been FDA approved, but we just need more talent in order to be able to treat them. It's life or death, just a day less in your time to fill, a day earlier that, an engineer is being onboarded and able to start doing life-saving work. Yeah. So I think that story, when you talk to other skills-based organizations, there's always a business reason why, and that was ours.
Yeah. And there needs to be.
There needs to be, of course.
Could you talk more broadly about the pharma and life sciences space and the inclination those organizations have to look at skills data? Because it feels like there's a particular angle where these organizations come from. Could you give your take on what you think that
is? And I think that talent shortage, that was, a great example. But if you think about our products, we have pipelines that take, like a decade to stand up these product lines. We have products that we lose patents on, that after a certain period of time that we need to manage these pipelines constantly, and it's always been this way, and it always will. So when you have a 5 to 10 year roadmap of your pipeline, it's very natural to want to plan your talent, to be prepared for that pipeline. And I think that that is really what my pharma peers who are on this journey, we're pretty well connected. I think that is a similar theme that I'm seeing at all of our organizations, is really just being able to prepare our talent for what we know we're going to need in 3, 5, 10 years from now.
So it seems the business challenge is clear. It seems you've been able to translate that into skills or an HR challenge. How did you get started then? Because there's all sorts of things to consider when we talk about the data elements that need to be there. So what was the starting point for BMS there?
So starting point was, people practices, starting with their talent acquisition, right? So we had a talent shortage, as we discussed, and we knew that there were infinite use cases for skills and skills data in this approach, but we wanted to start somewhere where the return on investment, so to speak, was very clear and would come to fruition fairly quickly, so that we can make progress, get traction, get buy-in. So we did launch our talent intelligence platform. That was our first really play before we got deep into skills work, starting with talent acquisition, getting our recruiters in there, at the same time also piloting an internal talent marketplace. So starting to look at our internal mobility. Is it where we want it to be? And are there any ways where we can also decrease, like improving our ability to find the right talent faster, be able to enable our employees to move into new roles, stay with the organization, and just have more agility. But it was really that TA angle where we got started, and I think that was a great decision. We were able to show like key business metrics, like early on, and when you're working with your leadership team, you always need to be able to make it clear what you're achieving. And when you can, to propose becoming a skills-based organization is very bold, right? It's a completely different way of running your organization. I think any, rational executive should be critical of going on this journey and should be looking for early wins. So we had that conversation with both our business leadership team, our HR leadership team, and that's the use cases we landed on pretty early on and leaned all the way in on. Yeah.
I'm super curious to hear more later on how you kept the momentum with what was important to bring to the business at what time. But data seems a very important one before you even go to the business showing anything, because that's where the trust often starts. So how would you say the state of skills data is currently at BMS or other important data points that are part of the mix?
It gets better every day. So would I say our data is perfect? Absolutely not. Nor, will our data ever be perfect, really. We started from zero. So 5 years ago, we didn't, if we wanted to understand the skills of our workforce, that would have been hundreds of thousands of man hours to go out to the organization, put it into an Excel sheet. So the moment we turn on our talent marketplace and our intelligence platform, start recruiting for roles, all of a sudden we know the skills we're looking for. It's just based on hiring, skills governance at the beginning, no skill taxonomy, just hiring managers working with recruiters. What are the skills you're looking for? Just that right there. We're going from 0 to 1. Same thing with our talent marketplace. Our first year, we launched it. We did a pilot, got great adoption, but since we launched with the enterprise last May, already over almost 80% of our employees have voluntarily gone into this platform. So now we have a view on their skills. Now, is that data perfect? Of course not. It's self-attested. We haven't gotten into proficiencies yet. We're maturing in our skills governance space, but I think when we're interacting with the business, we're very transparent about this. Our data is not perfect now, but it's the best we have, and we're equipping you with 20% better data than you had last year to make decisions. Here you go. While we work on next year, we'll have 40% better data, right?
That's super interesting, because I would think in the life sciences space, the business is extra critical on whether you get it right or not in terms of skills and capabilities that you map. So how easy was it to manage that expectation? And were there any traps there of losing momentum or trust with the business?
It's funny you say that. We are very transparent about the work we do with the business. They're very involved. We've had this conversation with the business many times, right? But once you get into the problems and start solutioning with the business, think about our employee base. It's scientists, it's engineers, it's folks who are frankly far more intelligent than I am, who once they start working the problem with us and have buy-in, not only do they get it, but they want to help. They want to be involved. So I think it's really been within our people organization that those conversations have been more frequent. It's a very different way of doing things. It's unlearning how we've done things in the past, where we now do have data. Is it perfect? No, and that's uncomfortable. But it's building muscles that we know will be critical in the future. Data is just going to become more critical to decision making, more prevalent. And now we're very happy we started this journey when we did, especially as, AI is coming into the picture. Yeah. We've started building these muscles within our people organization to be able to have these conversations with the business, and are much more prepared by doing so.
I really want to double click on that link with the business, because you've been able to tell the story in a way that's compelling enough for both business and HR to partner on this. What was the type of language you spoke in those meetings where you explained the ambition of becoming skill-based? And how does it differ from the language that you speak within HR internally?
Yeah. Very transparent, very data-driven, really using, for context, I did not grow up in HR. I grew up in tech, in system implementation. So for me, it was a very natural way of doing, speaking, and the rest of my team as well. And very natural for the business that once we explained what is this whole skills thing. A lot of them were, we've been asking for this for years. They're thrilled, and now we're in a situation where business can't get enough of it. We're catching up on our entire people organization's capacity to be able to meet them and do this work. So it's very exciting times.
And talking about the team capacity, what does the team currently look like? Because I imagine, if you have to maintain the skills infrastructure, there's collection happening, there's validation, there's multiple touch points that you need in order to keep the data on par. So to give our audience an idea of when you get started on this, an estimate of what a team setup might look like.
So it's evolved. So we started we do have a skills team that started under our talent and talent management function. But we actually, as we matured, we have moved under to our people strategy and operations and innovation team is what we call ourselves. So we report into the chief of staff, to our chief people officer, and kind of taken out of the COEs, almost a COE to the COEs, so to speak. And we manage our talent intelligence platform, skills governance, really the pull through of our skills strategy and execution. But it's also a priority of all of our COE partners, of all of our HRBP teams, where at this point there is initiatives in every function, in every people function related to skills, and our team will play more of a coordinator role. I'm just making sure that we are marching towards the same objective in some places. But I think this goes back to the trust and transparency and muscle building, that agility and eliminating those seams between functions, between the people organization and the business. I think it's one of the many secondary and tertiary benefits of becoming a skills-based organization, or at least going down that path. So it's been a journey, and it continues to be a journey. Lots of discussions on being very transparent about roles and responsibilities. How are we going to wire this? But it's just wonderful to see how it's transpiring after all this time.
And the business partners were involved from the very get-go?
Right. Yeah. And from the beginning of our pilot, we had a team very plugged in with our HRBP team. We meet with them, just all of our COEs and our skills team very frequently. They are our touch point they're our connection point to the business, as they should be. So I really view it as, our COEs and our skills team, how do we equip them to go and have better data-driven strategic conversations with the business? They're, first and foremost, are one of our primary customers, so we treat them as such.
Yeah. So we covered the business challenge use cases, now the data, and the stakeholders a little bit too. As we go into what you start doing with that skills data, you mentioned the pilot a couple of times already. Just this centers a lot around internal mobility as a use case. Could you expand on what is the North Star that you're aiming towards in that first phase, so to speak, that first pilot phase?
Yeah, the North Star was, it was address talent shortages. That was the business case. That was the business challenge. So we had, getting into metrics, time to fill, internal mobility. Right, those two, just to get into jump right into the data. So it was that with that North Star and the first play, acquiring a talent intelligence platform, we knew it would be a big shift in ways of working within our employee population, between employees, their managers, their leadership, and the people organization. So we knew we obviously wanted to start small and be able to move fast and break things, but don't break too many things.
Right things.
Yeah, break the right things, because talk about trust and transparency. If you don't roll that out in the right way, you can hurt the trust you have with your employee base. But back to your question, that was our North Star, and I think it's important, if you're going on this journey, you have to have a North Star because there are so many things you can do with skills, right? If you tried to do every use case all at once, you would get nowhere fast, right? Your team would be burnt out overnight. So being able to laser focus in on that problem enabled us to move much quicker, and moving quicker, and the successes we had, and the data we collect, and once we are getting into the more mature use cases, allows us to move faster with those as well.
Yeah, and addressing talent shortages is a nice use case because it shows the importance of all the foundations that need to be there. But it might be good to highlight to our audience what those foundations are, because we hear a lot about jobs, we hear a lot about skills, we hear a lot about tasks these days.
Think you just named
it. But what's the interplay between the three and the importance of each piece from your point of view?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, first, let's talk about roles, jobs. I mean, those are how you connect tasks and skills to each other, right? And so we've got clusters of employees in our job families, job profiles, roles. What, first and foremost, what do they do? Like, what are the tasks that they do? I mean, just asking those questions creates quite a bit of work for anyone who's gone on this skills-based organization journey. Job architectures were built with very different use cases in mind. Compensation first and foremost. So when you get into, all right, I want to articulate what are the 5 to 10 skills for this role, for this cluster of employees. But if you have roles where they're working on different tasks, I've seen with other clients that I had when I was back in consulting, I mean, you would have roles where you'd have like a business analyst, a software engineer, and a project manager in the same role. Very hard to effectively design skills for something like that. So I think back to where I said skills had a bit of a branding problem. I think we're talking about talent intelligence, and you need all three to be, in scope in your mind of how do you design roles and cluster tasks effectively? How do you effectively identify skills based on those roles and what tasks that they're responsible for? And I think, talk about, the impact of AI. I think that is going to be, that use case and those conversations are just going to become more and more critical as we understand what are the tasks that maybe an AI is going to help with or going to help automate, and then how does that shift the skills needed for those roles? I mean, I don't think it's as simple as, it's going to automate this task, so we're not going to need to use it anymore. You're going to need to have different skills for those roles to be able to interact with whatever tools that they're using, just to give it one example. But I think, we started the skills journey. I mean, when I say we, the entire, HR community, I think it was just a laser focus on skills without talking about jobs, roles, and tasks. And I think that is probably a root cause of where some of the skepticism came in back when this whole thing started, a couple of years ago. And now clearly that conversation is shifting. Tasks is now I feel like the topic of conversation within the skills community for good reason. I'm glad we're having those conversations now, because it's starting to make the picture is becoming more clear, I think, as you bring in jobs, roles, and tasks.
Yeah. For you, it's an and.
Absolutely, not an or. You need the context. You need to be able to connect. Skills are only valuable if you're connecting them to the work, and the work is contextualized through roles and tasks.
And this is currently something you're trying to incorporate within the skill strategy.
It is. I think we haven't, cracked that quite yet, but definitely becoming, our North Star is always changing, as it should be. I think that piece is coming more clear, and we're looking at to make that part of our execution of our skills strategy moving forward. Absolutely.
Yeah. Going back to that trust and transparency, and I really like that you mentioned it at the very very first question, because it's a super important topic when it comes to people data. When we talk about change management, and this is like the first thing it links to. If there's a change happening, people feel uncomfortable. How do you make sure you put them at ease? What are some tactics that you used at BMS with the team in order to create that trust and transparency? And I know we talked a little bit before the recording about the podcast you do internally. So there's multiple ways to educate your workforce. Like, what were some of the initiatives there?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I would just say for anyone looking to become a skills-based organization, all of the problems and difficult things we've already talked about, I think pale in comparison just to the change management work.
Okay. Wonderful.
I mean, it's just so much, just in terms of man hours that need to be dedicated when you're launching a talent intelligence platform. But yeah, back to your question and back to trust and transparency. I think we had a very clear and concise message of what we were doing. Skills is data. This is what we're launching talent intelligence platform. Here's what we're doing with that data. Here's what we're not doing with that data. And then equipping our HRBPs, our entire people organization, our business leaders with all of the information that they need to have, where they need to have it, and how it would be most effective. So whether that's, a podcast, so that when they're fighting fires every day, so to speak, speaking to our HRBPs, making sure that they have access to what they need to know when they need to know it in a way that's convenient to them. I think part of our skills journey and our implementation of our talent marketplace is the employee experience. And one of the key points when we were starting on this journey was employees expect best in class technology experiences, be treated to get communications like they would get from, an external source, whether it's on a social media app or something of that nature, where they have a question, they have access to the answer right there, where it's all curated for them. I think that was also one of our angles of our change management approach, is we wanted it to just be a delightful experience for our employees as we were rolling out the talent marketplace. But that's only scratching the surface of change management. I mean, we needed to start with leadership buy-in. So going back to our business use case, that went a very long way with our change management. We were working directly with our cell therapy organization and our pilot, and the leader of the cell therapy organization, Linnell, we were very open with, this is what we were doing when we were looking for a pilot group. Is this right fit for your organization? And they were jumping out of their seats to once we started, articulated the ROI, or the immediate ROI. So, starting with, leadership buy-in, making sure there's clear and concise communications for all of your stakeholders, from employees, managers, HRBPs, the rest of your people organization, and it's not just a one-time thing. It's not just you launched your talent marketplace for, maybe there's 3 months afterwards of hypercare. But it's not that, right? It is consistent. This is part of our messaging, our communication strategy, talking about skills, painting that picture for all of our stakeholder groups. But all our teams that have driven our change management, I mean, brilliance and just how much legwork has gone into it. For anyone going on this journey, to make sure you're keeping your investment in change management in mind as well. Yeah.
And there the North Star is super important.
Yes.
We need to remind everyone why we're doing this. Right?
Yeah, of course.
Cool.
Absolutely.
As we look ahead beyond what you're currently looking at, what do you feel like the future workforce in pharma looks like, and how do you think it will inform what's next in skill-based HR for a BMS?
That's the question. So, our focus right now is workforce planning, skills-informed workforce planning. So it is looking to address that question exactly. So, with the roles we have now, how is this going to evolve in the next few years? And I think, I continue to bring up AI. I think that is the burning question. My mind and our people organization's mind, as well as the business, is how is the nature of work going to change? So is it are we automating things? Is, the AI going to take over things? Is it going to augment which roles? How do we prepare ourselves for the skills needed for those roles in the future? And I think pharma is primed for, not just the AI use case, but also, as I was talking about, our pipeline. Like, we know the bets we're making on where we're looking to develop new products, where we're looking to find new use cases for existing products. It allows us to have to plan and to develop individualized strategies for each use case, every scenario that might happen, and which strategies which talent strategies do we need to leverage, all of which we can now equip with skills data. And I think it's an exciting time. It's also a critical time for really every pharma. If you look at all of the major pharma companies, there's patents expiring over the next few years at pretty much every major pharma company. So it is no coincidence that you're seeing many pharma organizations go on this skills journey. And I think we'll all continue to see the dividends of starting this work when we did.
I really also want to ask you, as I do with many guests, where do you show up to learn more about this space? I mean, there's multiple people to follow, reports to read, groups to engage with, but could you highlight some that have been really impactful for you?
Yeah, everywhere, look everywhere. But some that have been really impactful. So the Learning Forum gets different organizations together. We meet very frequently, and has really allowed us to become a tight-knit community, because it's, some of the best minds in HR trying to solve a very difficult problem, just completely changing how our functions operate. And we're constantly in contact. Hey, what do you think about this? What's your strategy here? Bouncing ideas off of each other. So can't reiterate enough the importance of my peers at other organizations that are going on this journey, as well as internally. Partnering with our business. I've been just in a conference room with a whiteboard with scientists and engineers working these problems, building that trust, but also, they've got skills that are great for solving this problem.
Why not use it?
So why not use it? And having a lot of trust in your IT teams. I think our HR IT team has been some of our most key partners in developing our strategies. And then, of course, thought partners, consultants, we've engaged with, and just don't stop reading, don't stop keeping up to date with the latest trends in this industry. TechWolf, I'm talking to some of the best innovators in the industry. There's always new developments, just reading everything you can, but also, checking your ego at the door and partnering with some folks that are you may have different ideas. So, yeah. Cool.
And then, of course, the last question, the habit I have of asking all my guests, what question do you want to ask the next person on this podcast? It can be skills related, it can be about something else.
Tangentially related. Obviously, AI is top of my mind, I think top of all of our minds. I am very curious what your next guest has to say about the future of HR, the future of people organizations, and how do they need to evolve in the age of AI over the next 5 to 10 years?
See how they roll with that?
Yeah, would love to hear it.
Thanks very much, Ben, for the great conversation.
Thanks for having me.
I hope we do this again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thank you for the wonderful view.
No worries.